refracting wave support. I see from your clinical request you're struggling with this design on two basic areas. The first being the fit. There seems to be some difficulty with scleral compression and some adherence of the lenses. Secondly, you're getting some unanticipated, unexpected overrefractions with some weird cylinders. Well, let's first talk about the powers. As you know, this case looks pretty straightforward where the corneal cylinder pretty much matches the refractive cylinder, so we'd anticipate a pretty straightforward case. In most cases, in my experience, when we have these weird overrefractions, obviously we have some compounding cylinders going on. It usually happens when the wave software underrepresents the true corneal cylinder, and therefore when it adds in the prescription, it ends up creating almost a bitoric lens. And if that lens does not sit correctly on the cornea, you're going to have some weird overrefractions. So the best way to avoid that is to make sure when you choose your original design, make sure you don't average the astigmatism. What I find sometimes when you average the astigmatism, especially on some of these corneas, remember we're going to average the cylinder across this cornea, sometimes the overall sum of that average tends to become more spherical in general, so it tends to hide some of the true corneal cylinder. So I always try to make sure, if I can, to stay without averaging the cylinder. With that said, another useful tool that I find when calculating powers for these patients, before I actually design the lens, I try to put a traditional corneal gas perm lens on the eye of a known spherical curvature and get a nice overrefraction over that lens. And then I use this tool down here, the trial lens data tool, to incorporate that information in my final design. And I find quite often that goes a long way in getting these lenses to work more accurately from a refractive standpoint. With that said, let's move forward here for a minute. If we talk about the design, it sounds like the semi-scleral design was quite comfortable. Actually, the scleral design, the larger diameter, the 16, was more comfortable, but from my understanding, you're getting some scleral indentation up here. That basically suggests that that peripheral curve is too steep, and overall the entire lens is probably slightly on the steep side. So the fix for that is generally try to flatten the entire lens, and that'll loosen up that peripheral curve so you don't have so much compression out there. And the best way to do that, if you recall, there's a little tool here where you can import a trial lens of a flatter base curve, assuming you have one in your that you've created. If not, I'll include a link that shows you how to create one of those lenses. It's one of the Wave video trainings. And by flattening that lens up, I think that'll help you loosen up that peripheral curve so that way you won't have so much compression on that sclera. The other thought is when you look at that smaller diameter lens, if this lens was acceptable, you may even just look at this peripheral curve on this lens to see if you just have, because this looks like a rather steep edge angle, if there's some adjustments that you can make in that, whether moving the pink ball up or down, you can adjust that, or the black to adjust that edge angle. You might be able to reduce some of this patient's feeling like the lenses are dirty throughout the daytime. With that said, if you make those adjustments, again, for the power, try not to average the astigmatism. Maybe consider a known spherical lens and get a good overrefraction, incorporate that data. My guess is you've got some rotational issues going on with that cylinder, and if we can get that cornea more truly represented on the topography that's brought into Wave, I think you'll be much more successful with that. Well, I wish you luck with this case. This is a challenging